The more electric cars you see on the road, the more electric car adoption we see, the more the haters seem so obsessed with the absurd idea that electric cars will kill us all. Why are they doing this? And what on earth are these fools actually thinking? I think it's a good question. Many of you guys are asking this question. You're saying, Sam, you know what? I've seen these videos. People are making these comments. So many people are doing it. The media is getting in on this. What exactly is going on? Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. Great to see you. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome back, everyone else, and thank you for tuning in. And in fact, I have to say a special thank you to those of you who got in contact with me, messaged me, sent me support and some advice based on the video that I shared just a couple of days ago about the cancer diagnosis. And for those of you as well that supported us on Patreon after that happened, to be honest, when I saw that, I don't know what to say, but it means a lot to me. So thank you very much for doing that. And also all of our Patreon supporters, thank you so much. All of our YouTube members, thank you so much. It really, I don't know how to express my gratitude, but I do mean it when I say thank you. Now, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, you haven't seen the video, I'll put a link in the description below of the video where I disclosed what's going on. Now, I haven't given exact details. I'm not sure if I should do that, but I'll do that probably in the future at some point in time. EVs will kill us all, say the haters. I mean, even Joe Rogan is getting in on this lately. I think it's gotten to the point of being extreme. And there's a key reason why it's so extreme. It's gotten to the point of being not just extreme, but extremely insane. So why are haters so obsessed with electric vehicles? Why are they so incredibly afraid of change? Well, that's the key, isn't it? I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but some people, no, actually a lot of people recently, seem to really deeply hate electric vehicles. Now at Christmas, one of my family members was talking to me about how much they hate electric cars. And I couldn't take them seriously. I just thought, there is something seriously mentally wrong with you to have this extreme hatred for an inanimate object. Seriously, it's not a person. They didn't do anything to them. It's not like Hitler. It's not like Putin. Nothing. An EV hasn't actually hurt them, but it's almost as though EVs are hurting their personal deep feelings, cause them some personal tragedy or something like that. That's how serious and Orwellian it is. Now, Stephen Corby from EV Central said, many people seem to really hate electric vehicles, and they seem to celebrate when EVs fail, or when the media pretends that EVs fail. I know this because every time I write about one, or even mention the acronym in a story for the country's only national paper, the comments beneath the online version of my story erupt into a frothing splurge of spleen and outrage. I've seen this too. It's the same here in Australia. It's incredibly childish. It's incredibly bizarre. I have wondered at what makes some humans so venomously vicious about the idea of cars running on clean electricity. Other than the fact that they're the kind of people who simply hate change of any kind, also sometimes colloquially known as old people, and that led me to wonder whether there were people who hated the original cars when they first changed the world. Now, I've got to interject here. It's definitely not old people. It's not. I actually think many old people have embraced EVs more so than young people. I know many young people who are scared, much more scared of EVs than older people. So I don't agree with Stephen's comment there. But, of course, in every age segment, there are people who are just mentally deranged in their hatred of electric cars. Sure enough, there were plenty of people, particularly in America, where laws were proposed that involved any car user setting off rockets every mile that they drove and then waiting 10 minutes for the road to clear before proceeding. This was to give unhappy horse owners and pedestrians a chance to get out of the way of the evil, noisy, dust-deviling death machines called automobiles. Now, I didn't know this, but it's true. Proposing to have to fire off a rocket and then wait 10 minutes in order to drive your car down the street, it seriously happened in the United States. Fortunately, that law wasn't actually passed. In Vermont, they actually did pass a law, though, demanding that a motor vehicle must be accompanied by a person walking in front of it at all times. Imagine how slow that would have been. And they had to wave a red flag while they walked. Amazing. Even accounting for how slow cars were back then, this seems crushingly pointless, ridiculous, annoying, and just utterly banal. Remarkably, some of today's EV haters are allowed to spew forth their belligerence, not just in comment sections, but in places where they're read by screeds of skeptics just like them. Pretty much like confirmation bias, sort of like a bunch of idiots getting together and encouraging idiocy. That's what I think it is anyway. I'm not easily shocked, but I do find the widely published work of Bjorn Lomborg, a Danish author and climate opinion giver who is neither a climate scientist nor an economist, utterly dumbfounding. Lomborg is also definitely not a journalist. They're slightly more attached to reality and facts in general. Now, I disagree with that completely. Many journalists are not attached to reality at all. But anyhow, although he does appear in newspapers, giving him some sort of bizarre credibility, which is completely undeserved. Lomborg's hatred for EVs leaps off the page. And there's American YouTube channels, famous American celebrity type people who you guys have emailed me about, and I've seen their ridiculous channels. You've asked me to comment on them. I don't, because it's simply marketing for them. I'm not going to mention these morons because they're just losers and they don't deserve to be mentioned. That's what I think anyway. Let me know what you think on that though. Now, Lomborg recently questioned why, if EVs are so good, we need to bar the alternatives and why we need to subsidize them. In other words, saying that we should stop selling gasoline cars or by having rules to stop selling gasoline cars mean that EVs aren't actually any good. Now, obviously, this moron can't work out the reality. That is that, well, gasoline cars, diesel trucks unquestionably cause cancer. In fact, they cause millions of deaths. And all of those could be prevented by having cleaner air to breathe. And well, for me, this is especially poignant, knowing what's just happened, knowing many of you kind of contacted me saying you've had this disease as well. You've had various different forms of cancer. And we just don't know if ultimately the reason you got it, well, the reason that people we know got it, family members got it, was because of drinking in too many particles from the exhaust of cars. Now, for example, what happens when you put your mouth on an exhaust pipe? Maybe Lomborg needs to do that. And then he'll be able to figure out why it is that we're actually wanting to ban gasoline and diesel-powered vehicles. However, this was just Lomborg warming up, because he went on to point out that EVs will actually kill all of us. Seriously. Or, as he puts it, electric vehicles need a huge amount of battery capacity, and this makes them much heavier than comparable petrol-powered cars. A new study shows that this weight difference alone means electric cars produce more particulate matter emissions from greater tyre, road and brake wear than petrol cars do. Now, obviously, he's completely ignorant of the fact that electric cars have regen brakes. And many electric car owners never replace their brake pads in more than 400,000 plus kilometers of ownership. I'm talking, 250,000 plus miles. They don't replace their brake pads. Having good regen is amazing. You basically are putting energy back into the battery without using your brake pads at all. So in fact, the complete opposite to that is true. He goes on to say, these heavy electric cars are also more dangerous for others in accidents. A study in Nature showed that, in total, heavier electric cars will cause so many more deaths that the toll could outweigh the total climate benefits from reduced CO2 emissions. Obviously, completely made up facts. Now, you could try and Google the study he's talking about, but I've tried to Google it and it doesn't exist. He's just made it up. Make up a study, quote it in your article, sound like you're making sense and you're telling the truth, and you're just lying. Lomborg has problems with pundits, suggesting that EV sales will dominate within a few decades or even shorter period than that time, like me. ignoring the fact that many car companies are already committed to selling only electric cars by the middle of next decade, and some by 2030 or earlier. And of course, this will be an incredibly powerful market force. However, he advises us that the quiet reality is starkly different, and that even in 2050, more than 2/3 of all cars globally will still be powered by petrol or diesel. That's 26 years from now. Our author friend ascribes that prediction to the Biden administration. Seriously. But if you actually Google that quote, the only hits it brings up on the internet are attached to, you guessed it, Bjorn Lomborg quoting it. There's zero evidence that the Biden administration ever said anything like that at all. Unfortunately, a lot of journalistic publications don't seem to care. They'll quote this as though it is a fact. And here's another fact he quotes. That sounds quite literally too bad to be true. Ultimately, the reason electric cars are championed is because of their promised emission reductions. Yet the IEA estimates that even if the whole world achieves all of its ambitious stated electric vehicle targets by 2030, the additional saved CO2 emissions over this decade will be 235 million tonnes. The standard climate model used by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reveals that this will reduce global temperatures by only 0.0001 Celsius by the year 2100. Now, obviously, that's just yet another made-up anti-EV pretend fact. The reality is that EVs reduce emissions at the tailpipe completely. In fact, EV batteries can be completely recycled, and most of them will now last longer than the life of the car. And the air pollution EVs are responsible for varies enormously on the where and how they draw power in their batteries. And that's changing as well. The world is converting and moving to renewable energy. That's an incontrovertible fact. If you buy an EV today, right, wherever you're getting your energy from, many people who own EVs actually get their own solar panels, so then they can get free energy. But if you buy an EV today, the energy you get from the grid will become greener and greener with time. And I've documented countries, what they're doing all around the world to change their grids to being renewable. It's simply the only logical thing to do. However, the biggest thing I don't get from people like this is, what is their agenda? Why the hatred? Why the anger? Why the need to invent facts? Why the need to spew such vile? It doesn't make sense. I don't understand it. Please, do you know why they're doing this? Why are people so emotionally caught up in this incredible false narrative that EVs are bad and gasoline-powered cars somehow are good? Now, this whole idea that EVs are deadly and will kill people is just ludicrous. And the unfortunate fact is, this kind of nonsense is being repeated by lots of morons in many different countries all around the world. I'm not going to even mention who they are, but I'm sure many of you know exactly who I'm talking about. So what is the agenda here? Why are these people doing this? And who is paying them? Unfortunately, the only thing I know for sure is that from experience and from many, many thousands of online comments that I've read over the last few years, particularly here in Australia, there's a huge population of people who support the anti-EV death-killing machines narrative. They read this kind of stuff or listen to it on the radio, they smile in deluded satisfaction, and they nod in agreement. It's like a bunch of Muppets nodding to each other. Personally, if it wasn't all so ridiculous, it'd actually be funny. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.